I'd like to call to order our July the 7th Board of City Commissioners meeting. Call the roll, please.
Stevens.
Here.
A.G. Here. Herod.
Here.
Maynard.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Winteringer. Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. If you're able to stand, I'd ask that you do it. And Reverend Kerbo, I hate to surprise you again. I saw you here, and we'd be honored if you'd say a prayer this evening. You do such a wonderful job.
I'll be an honor to pray. Our Father, we thank you today that we can come to you. We thank you, Lord, for the life that you have given to us. We thank you, dear Lord, for the city and the community that we have to work in. And Lord, we pray that your blessings will be upon this city commission meeting tonight, that you would give good wisdom, and dear Lord, that we will always know what is your will. Lord, I pray that you would reach down upon our community, and God, that we all work together, and dear Lord, that we lift up our hands together to praise God that we have this opportunity to live in this area. Now your blessings be upon all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay.
I'll do my duty and lead the flag salute tonight, okay? Position, attention, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to say welcome to each and every one of you. It's nice to have you here and show that your interest in our government. Item number 1 is consider approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Harrod and a second by Commissioner Hall. Motion carries. I am going to recess our regular meeting and go to the airport advisory report, and we'll do that, and we'll move on and then come back. Okay? Call to order. The Airport Authority, we do have a quorum based on the previous roll call. Number 1 is consider approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Have a move by Commissioner Hall and a second by Vice Mayor. Okay?
Oh, sorry. Okay. There you go.
Motion carries. Item number 2 is discussion, consideration, and possible action on approval of a lease agreement between the Shawnee Airport Authority and Davis Martin Structures. We have a staff report there.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. This is a lease agreement between the City of Shawnee and Davis Martin Structures. They were previously known as Control Center LLC. They are the only mechanic shop that we have out there on the airport. They're owned and operated by James Martin and Ron Davis. Some of you may know who Ron Davis is. He's the chief instructor out at the Gordon Cooper A&P Mechanics School. And so he operates a shop out at the airport in one of our main hangars. So their lease is up, and we just need to renew a lease with them for an additional year. After a year, there's an option to renew for an additional year for the next 5 years. The only adjustments to the lease, to their previous lease agreement, was the size and space that they need to conduct their business. We've increased it from a 30 by 30 space in our hangar to a 30 by 55, so they've grown a little bit. Staff recommends that we do approve this lease, and the advisory board recommended we approve the lease on June 18th, 2014. So I can take any questions.
Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Stevens.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hall. Motion carries. Mr. City Manager, any new business?
No new business.
Okay. If not, then I will adjourn to the Shawnee Municipal Authority. I will call the Shawnee Municipal Authority to order and declare we do have a quorum. Item number 1 is consider approval of the consent agenda. Vice Mayor Harrod.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. Motion carries. Item number 2 is a short presentation by Smith Roberts and them on an update on the utility master plan, final draft.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Well, they told me it was going to be short.
Mayor and City Commission, I've asked Smith Roberts Baldwin to present the commission with their findings for the distribution system. It'll be a short presentation. I've placed the executive session and the volume 3 in front of you for your review. Now I've got Lindsay Olson and Max Baldwin that'll do the presentation for you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Max Baldischweiler. We're here to present the summary of the water distribution CIP. I've spoken to you quite a few times, so I've
Get
asked...
that mic, would you, so they can hear you.
I'm sorry. I've spoken to you quite a few times on the modeling, so I've asked Lindsay Olson to give the presentation tonight for the summary.
That's good. She's a lot prettier than you
I know.
anyway. I really enjoy that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, if we could pull up the slides for the presentation. All right, so as Max said, my name's Lindsay Olson. I work for Smith Roberts Baldwin, and today I'm going to introduce the water distribution report. So today, next slide please. Today we'll go over the background information, how the system was evaluated, the results, and the proposed capital improvement programs, and then the project priorities and cost estimates. Next slide. Next slide. So now we'll go over the background information. We prepared 2 different models, an existing model and a future model. And the existing model we evaluate the existing system to propose current changes, and then the future was used for 2030 and more long-term proposed changes. So for the existing, we show an average daily demand of 4 million gallons, and then we also created 2 scenarios, a peak demand, which is historically recorded on September 2012 as 7.5 million gallons, and then we also created a winter or low demand scenario, which we did by averaging the 2008 to 2012 winter records, and we got a 2.5 million gallon demand. So for the 2030 future model, we used, based on the expected population increase, an average demand of 4.5 million gallons and a peak demand of 10.25 million gallons. So with those numbers in mind, we can move forward to how we evaluated the system. So we used 4 criteria to evaluate the water distribution system: water storage, pipe velocity, fire flow, and water quality. So first off, we have water storage, and DEQ best management practices recommends that the city have enough storage to hold the average daily demand. And currently, Shawnee has 2.5 million gallons of storage with your 4 elevated water storage tanks. Next slide. The second criteria is pipe velocity. We used a velocity of 8 feet per second to evaluate the system. Over 8 feet per second can have damaging effects to the distribution system and infrastructure. So it's recommended that the velocity be kept below 8 feet per second.
Do you know, I want to interrupt.
That's okay. That's fine.
Do you know that we maintain 8 feet or below today?
Well, we'll get into the
We'll get into
results
that?
soon.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
So right now I'm just going over
Okay.
the criteria that we used. So next we used fire flow, and what we did is we simulated a 2-hour fire during peak demand time, so at 8 a.m. in the morning when everybody's getting up and showering. And then we required a minimum pressure of 20 psi. We have 2 different required flows based on the land usage. So for residential, we used 1,000 gallons per minute, and for commercial, we used 2,500 gallons per minute. And those come from international standards. So next, we used water quality. And for Shawnee's chloramines treatment system, it's recommended that the water age be kept below 7 days. And water age is measured as the time after the water leaves the water treatment plant to when it reaches the end user or out of a faucet. And typically high water age is seen in dead-end lines or lines that don't connect back, kind of loop around. All right, the next slide. So now I'll get into some of the proposed changes based on the results that we found. So because Shawnee only has 2.5 million gallons of storage currently, we propose a 1 million gallon elevated water storage tank next to the Edwards Tower, and this will move the town forward towards reaching the 4 million gallons that you currently have as an average daily demand. And in addition to that, we identified 2 57 and 51 pipes for pipe velocity, fire flow, and water quality, respectively, as pipes that needed an upgrade or either addition to the system. And if we go to the next slide, these are shown here. It's a little bit hard to see, but in your executive summary, you have more of a larger map that you can take a look at.
So these were upgrades to meet the velocity requirements?
They're all the upgrades. So they include pipe velocity, fire flow, and water quality. All right.
Back to the storage, did you identify the best location or best pop?
Yeah, it's over by my house.
We actually propose it right next to the current Edwards Tower, the water tower on Edwards.
Over by my house.
Really? What? I didn't even know where that was.
All right, so if we move on to the next slide. For the 2030 model, we use the same criteria, and we propose a 1.5 million gallon ground elevation storage tank. The city will need additional storage, but not necessarily more pressure to the system, so elevated storage isn't necessary. So we propose a ground elevation storage tank at the water treatment plant.
This is in addition to the 1 million?
Yes, that's correct.
That we need yesterday?
That's correct. So the best management practice from DEQ recommends the average daily demand. So with your 2.5 plus the proposed 1 million gallon elevated storage tank, you'll have 3.5, and then by 2030 you'll have an average daily demand of 4.5, estimated 4.5 million gallons. So then you'll need additional water storage to meet the best management practice. And so we also identified 4, 66, and 5 pipe upgrades or additions for pipe velocity, fire flow, and water quality, respectively. And if we go to the next slide, these are shown here. And again, you'll see a larger map in your executive summary. So next slide. So in addition to the water storage and the pipe upgrades, by year 2030, to meet the peak demand, the city will need to install a 4th pump at the water treatment plant. And that'll act, so currently the city has 3 pumps, 2 are run, and 1 is used as standby. So, but by year 2030, in the summer, you'll need 3 to run, and the 4th acting as standby. Next slide. So next we'll get into how we prepared the project priorities and the cost estimates for each. So we prepared a separate priority list for both the existing and the future model. And we used the city's budget of approximately $1 to $2 million each year would be spent on these projects. And it's important to note that the construction estimates are for construction alone, and they're also using 2014 cost info. So as we go forward into the future, it's likely that inflation will affect those prices. And also that they don't include any necessary easements. So some of the proposed pipe additions will require some easements. And then for the 2030 project priority list, because of the expected inflation, we only estimated about 60% of the city's budget would be spent each year. All right, next slide. We also proposed that the water storage and the high lift pump would have separate funding. And so we've provided an estimate here, and you'll find more info in your executive summary and report. But we estimate that we propose that the elevated storage tower would be installed within the next couple of years, and then the ground elevation storage tank and the pump at the water treatment plant would be installed in year 2030. Next slide. So during our evaluation process, we identified 12 pipes in the existing model that overlap in value to the city. So 12 pipes were identified both for fire flow and water quality upgrades, which makes these pipes most valuable to be upgraded for the city in terms of priority. So we put those at the top of the priority list. Following that, we considered the age of the pipe. So certain areas of the city are known to have older infrastructure, and using that information, we included that in the priority list. And then following that, we used the proximity to the center of the city based on the population that upgrade would affect. All right, next slide. So this is the first 4 years of the proposed priority list, and you'll see the full breakdown in Appendix D of your executive summary. But we proposed a construction cost for each pipe, and that's based on the size of the pipe and the length. And then we added that for each year using the city's annual budget. And if we follow this priority list and the schedule, it'll take 14 years to install all of the proposed upgrades for the existing model. And then if we go to the next slide, we have a 2030 schedule that we put together in the same manner, and except that the totals, we took only about 60% of the total budget. And following this schedule, it'll take approximately 15 years to install all these upgrades. So next slide. So that covers pretty much everything in the executive summary and the water distribution report. So do you have any questions for me?
One quick question. I don't think your study really addressed benefits or return on investment for smart meters throughout the system. It did not, right? Okay.
Any other questions, Commission? Very, very good.
Thank you.
Very enlightening.
This is cheaper than the wastewater, right? By far. We could probably do this.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any new business?
Mayor, no new business.
No new business. Okay, then I will adjourn our municipal authority and reconvene our regular commission. The chair will entertain a motion to consider approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hall, second by Vice Mayor Harris. Motion carries. Commissioners' comments this time. I have one, and that is we are having our groundbreaking tomorrow for a huge event in our city, the new aquatic park. Some people call it a pool, but as I look at the drawings there, it's more than a pool. It's an aquatic park, and each and every one of you are invited. And as you can see, as you're driving by, there's a lot of construction already.
Yeah, they're making a lot of progress already.
Things are really happening. But again, it's tomorrow at 11 at Woodland Park, and I've been told they'll keep it short because it's going to be hot. So
You need to have those guys working on Kickapoo come out there and look and see how fast that work's going.
So any other commissioner comments? If not, I'll move on to citizens' participation. At this time, we welcome citizens to participate, and they have up to 3 minutes to speak and 12 minutes. Hand him the mic, would you? Phyllis.
I'm sure you know me. My name is Jim Sims.
Talk into that microphone, please, Jim, so everybody can
And
hear you.
everybody here knows me as being in the wheelchair. A little over a year ago, I got a ticket for being out in the street, which I should have gotten a ticket for being out in the street. Of course, the ticket was modified to walking in the roadway, and I don't understand that. But it's on MacArthur Street. Since we started the Kickapoo project, all it's been when the sidewalks are blocked, and they're blocked. Every time they put one of these construction signs up, blocks the sidewalk. Over and over and over down through there. That's the street we used. The street where I got the ticket. Now, what is the difference in me impeding vehicles These construction people blocking sidewalks. Utilities go in there and they're gonna do something, they block huge amounts of dirt equipment. The ordinance in Shawnee says we're not supposed to block sidewalks, not supposed to park, stand, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I send a picture to the city manager, he calls one individual, that individual calls about one instance. Would it be better for him to call and talk to whoever's over this and tell them, hey, don't put your signs, don't put your dirt on sidewalks? It's very, very upsetting. I don't want to pay another $99 for getting out in the street. But can somebody do something about that?
I think we should certainly pass this on to Mr. Krywicki.
John's the one that's been doing this all the time.
Is John here? Oh, he stepped out. Okay, but I think
He's the one that's been in charge of this all the time and he's done nothing about it. I like
Okay.
John. But get a little teaching. Go talk to people. Say, hey, don't do this anymore.
That's a very good point, sir, and we appreciate you sharing
Mayor,
that with
I will
us.
make you a promise. If he can't do it, I will. You can pay me the wages.
Well,
Fair?
okay, I don't know if I can swing that, but I will see to it that we talk to John about it, okay? And thank you again for bringing that to us. Thank you. How do we need this? We need to be sure that someone gets that information to John.
I'm sure.
Mr. Bryce can do it.
Okay. Mr. Bryce, acting city manager. Could you state your name for the public and please,
My name
sir?
is John Rocky Barrett. I'm a citizen of the city of Shawnee. I noticed item 11 on the agenda is submitted again by Commissioner Hall to amend the charter of the city about the issue of detachment. And of course, there is no mention in the current charter of detachment. It's simply done by ordinance. The right, though, of initiative and referendum is guaranteed to the citizens of the state of Oklahoma by its Constitution. And by delegation, the Oklahoma Constitution and the authority of the legislature is delegated to the city of Shawnee. If you pass this charter amendment, you will be denying the citizens its fundamental right of initiative and petition. And I urge every member of the city commission not to do this. This is nothing more than retaliation. That's all it is. It's just retaliation. And first of all, there was no legal annexation. All that's really being asked here is for the city to quit its claim to an illegal annexation. But at no time has the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, who I also represent, asked for any infrastructure of the city to be de-annexed. You know, you presented that, Commissioner Hall, as a justification for this this so-called charter amendment. There's no way that the rights of way of the city's pipe and infrastructure, that doesn't go away if you de-annex it. Those right-of-way agreements are still binding on the property and the property owners. So there's really no justification for this at all, and none of the land that we would propose as Citizen Potawatomi Nation to be de-annexed would have city infrastructure on it. Now, we granted the city a right-of-way when it got off of its public rights-of-way on the road to go across one section of the tribe's property, and we did that by contribution. This is the same thing, Mr. Mayor, that if you'll recall before you were seated, the former mayor attempted to preempt all of you's vote on the Hotel and Visitors Bureau issue and appointed me as a part of that committee to do that, and I declined because I didn't want to preempt the vote of the newly seated city commission. And that's all you're trying to do here is preempt the vote of a newly seated city commission majority. And the city will not take it. The city will not they will not take having their rights deprived from them. And this is wrong, what you're doing. It's wrong.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments?
Good evening. My name is Lisa Shaw. I am City Commissioner-elect This is my first opportunity to see all of you, I guess, face to face. So tonight I want to say what a very learned group that I believe that each of you are, and I certainly appreciate what you contribute to the city. My comments tonight are focused on item number 11. I believe that as a city commission that we have the responsibility to look at all of the issues that are prevalent to this particular issue in general. De-annexation, annexation, tribes are different, they're unique, they have federal statutes and federal law that govern them. They have trust responsibilities that they are given. As a city, we need to look to them as partners, that we give them and attribute to them the rights that they have earned and that they have learned how to evolve to. They're not asking for anything other than what has been granted to them through statute. City Commissioner Hall, I'd ask that we look at creating an de-annexation committee so that we can thoroughly evolve and look at these issues and put those into place with our Shawnee Comprehensive Plan so that we have a very informed decision when we go in and we start to make these kind of changes to any type of ordinance, or that we create an ordinance to that effect. I read what City Attorney Carnes had indicated as her opinion on this issue, and I appreciate that opinion. However, I cannot agree with that opinion. I am both a U.S. citizen. I'm also a tribally enrolled member with the Choctaw Nation. I have no vested interest in these tribes here other than that we give them the right and give them what they should be given by statute, by law. And I ask tonight that you look at that issue very thoroughly, Commissioner Hall, that you in particular look at that, because you're the one weighing in the heaviest on this issue. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Any other commissioner comments? Citizens comments, I'm sorry.
My name's Kevin Calise, and I also want to address item 11. I'm against it, and I guess the reason is because I don't understand it. I'm thinking that as a property owner, if I had an occasion to want my property de-annexed, the forum now exists that I could plead my case. I'd come to you guys. If this passes, as I understand it, I have no forum. I don't know how I would try to plead my case before all the voters for the city of Shawnee. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, not being any more citizens' participation, I will move on to item number 5. It's a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located northwest of terminus of Churchill Street, Woodsong Addition, Shawnee, Oklahoma, from A1 Rural Agriculture and Planned Unit Development to R1 Single Family Residential. We have a staff report in this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. For a little background on this site, it is located north on 45th Street between Harrison and Bryant Street. Currently as it sits, there is the Woodsong Garden Addition and Woodsong Addition, and this site would be just north of both of those, entered through Churchill. Currently the west side of the property is zone A1, and the east half would be PUD, Planned Unit Development. The PUD exists there because previously both Woodsong Garden Addition and Woodsong Addition were built by Bryant Builders, and the plan had been for the next phasing to progress northward, and instead the property has been sold since, and in fact the only thing we found on the PUD was that it was to decrease the front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet. So truthfully, it's very much closer to R1 residential with that minor adjustment there. So the request would be to rezone from A1 and PUD to R1, and staff does recommend approval of the rezone. I would also like to mention that there will be 2 access points to this property, not just Churchill, but there will also be access through Kelly Green just to the east. Thank you.
Weren't there some conditions on that, or was that, did I remember that wrong?
There's no conditions on this one.
Okay.
No.
Any more questions for the staff? Not hearing any. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I will open a public hearing to take comments in this matter, either for or against. Please come forward. State your name and sign in there, please, okay? And talk into that microphone.
I'm Rick Austin, and I'll just answer any questions y'all that y'all have.
Are you for this or against it?
I'm sorry?
Are you for this or against it? I said, are you for it or against it?
Oh, I'm for it.
Okay.
I just recommend approval. So. I'm a little hard of hearing, so I'll try to pick all this up. So these hearing aids sometimes work, sometimes they don't. But.
I'm not hearing any questions, so, sir, would there be anyone here that would like to also speak in favor or against this matter? Okay. Then I will close our public hearing, and any discussion among the commission members here or anything?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Commissioner Stevens. I'll let you skip, okay. Would you read the title, please, ma'am?
This is an ordinance concerning the zoning classification of a tract of property within the corporate limits of the city of Shawnee, located in the southwest quarter of Section 32, Township 11 North, Range 4 East. And I believe the other one is the same. And in the southeast quarter of Section 32, Township 11 North, Range 4 East of the Indian Meridian, all from A1 Rural Agricultural and PUD Planning Unit Development to R1 Single Family Residential, and amending the official zoning map of the city of Shawnee accordingly.
Okay, having heard the title read, it's time for us to vote. Motion passes. Okay. Item number 6 is consideration of approval of a preliminary plat for Stone Creek Crossing located at the north corner of MacArthur and Acme Road. Staff report in this matter?
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Okay, this development is actually located just south of the Elks Golf Course. It's on Acme Road, just north of MacArthur, on the west side of the road. The applicant is proposing a 2-phase project with a total of 101 lots on 80 acres. They primarily all the lots for phase 1 of this project will be at least a half acre or greater. So it'll be larger housing for this portion. As you can see on the preliminary plat, which would be for you, Exhibit 2, roughly 10 acres along the west side of this development is floodplain. There are 2 gas lines, traversing the property down the middle. Phase 1 of this project will be roughly the north half, 50 lots there. And of note are 3 deviations that they do request from the city. The first of which would be phase 1 to be a private road built to city standards, to allow gates to be at the entrance and at the completion on the west side of phase 1. Second would be cul-de-sac length. Currently the standard is 500 feet, and they request a deviation, which we can allow up to 1,000 feet on that deviation, based on the size of the lots and a few of these abnormalities. That doesn't seem to be an issue. And then finally, up to 16 lots to be served by aerobic sewer systems, primarily lots along the west, right next to the floodplain. And as far as our code says for aerobic sanitary sewer systems, we need 1 acre or greater in size for these lots. But according to a change in the state code, that's now half an acre at this point. So there are roughly 2 or 3 of these lots currently that are right there close to it, maybe just under, so that will need to be adjusted before the final plat. But beyond that, staff does recommend approval based on the conditions, and further, Plan Commission did note a change on staff recommendation 3C, that instead of approximately 12 lots, it is up to 16 lots being served by the aerobic sanitary system.
City limits? In the
Yes.
city limits, right? And in the I-93 school district?
Correct.
Good news. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Any question, any discussion in this matter?
This is the one that has the poor conditions on it, too, yeah.
Correct.
So moved with the
We
conditions.
have a motion by Commissioner Stevens.
Second.
We have a second by Vice Mayor Harrod. Let's vote. Motion carries. Item number 7, consideration of approval of a final plat for Shawnee Marketplace planned unit development located at the southwest quarter of Interstate I-40 and Kickapoo Street. Deferred by the Planning Commission to a special call meeting. Deferral by the Planning Commission, is that what you're recommending?
We're attempting a quorum for a special meeting on the 16th currently, and that way we can get it on the July 21st City Commission agenda if possible.
We need to vote on this, Mary Ann? No. Okay, item is deferred, item number 7, okay. Item number 8, a public hearing and consider an ordinance closing alley between 10th Street and 11th Street and between North Fesodum Avenue and North Florence Avenue. A staff report in that matter, please, sir.
Thank you again. The applicant in this case, Cross Connection Church, has 2 primary concerns with this particular alleyway. The potential loitering and criminal activity on these lots is a major concern at this point. And the church owns 3 buildings along the north half of this particular block, along with 3 parking lots. And they're requesting an alley closure, which is temporary, to go roughly halfway down, just past the church property, so not all the way down to 11th Street. We have contacted all utility companies and have had no problems with that. In fact, we had 1 letter received by Oklahoma Natural Gas stating they had no objections to this. We've also mailed notice, though not required, to all property owners in the immediate area. And again, I would say the alley closure is temporary. It's not a permanent thing. All costs are associated with the applicant in this case, and it can be reversed at any time. So staff does recommend approval.
So it's on a temporary, that means they can't build or anything else on there? or what?
Correct.
And there's not a problem with fire access or anything like
No.
that?
Are they gonna build some kind of a barricade there or a fence up there or what?
I believe so. I believe they plan a fence to put there along the south side. So they'll actually leave the north side open along 10th Street.
So it'll be about, you said about 1/3 of the block or 4?
Yeah,
There's a picture of it.
There
in
is a
the pack.
map.
Yeah, he's looking at it.
Couple
Looks like
pages
it's
down
almost
there.
3/4 of a block. Huh?
Yeah, I apologize. About 3/4 of the way down.
Now, I see, as I look at the drawing, they have 3 buildings or 4 buildings? It looks like
It's 3 buildings. so
Okay,
it'd
well,
be-
they're closing the street right in front of another building at the bottom of our map. I don't know if that's south or not.
Yeah. It would
Is
be south, excuse me.
Yeah, why are they closing it down so far to that other building? You see what I'm talking
That
about?
may be the church's building.
Is that,
It's
he
that-
said they only have 3 buildings. not-
That third one
Oh,
down
that
along
third
the
one
left
down
side
is a
down
church.
is church
Okay,
property.
that's not theirs on the other side.
Correct. And
Oh,
in fact, The second property down on the east side there is, I believe, the pastor's home too. so-
Okay, okay, clears that up. Any other questions? Out of hearing any? You okay, John?
Yeah. I'd move we close the
Well, I
alley.
got to open the public
Oh,
hearing.
sorry.
Sorry. I'm going to open a public hearing here, and if anyone would like to come forward and speak in favor of this, or anyone like to come and speak against it, please be sure and state your name and speak right into the microphone so the TV audience can hear you.
My name is Ken Curbo. I am the lead pastor at Cross Connection Church.
Excuse me, no relation to the other fellow back there.
Yes, that would happen to be our pastor emeritus and my father. You were there to present him a proclamation at his retirement, in
Well, you
fact.
got good blood in you.
Good blood, that's right. We actually requested that this be closed because, as he was stating, that we have had a lot of drug traffic problems. We have a lot of parking that is paved. Over half the alley we have paved as well. We own more than 50% of the block, considering the property that's just to the south of the gymnasium there that we have. That actually is personally owned by me, but is fixing to become part of the church's property as well. We have had vehicles stolen in the property from our children's pastor when people were right there outside. I mean, they've been bold enough to walk right up. I almost got ran over in the alley on the same particular night by someone who was running from a probable drug deal, from what we can tell. We had several policemen out there that night. We actually did finally find the car a half a block away, but we are having still problem with people parking in our parking lot, walking up the street, being gone about 5 or 10 minutes, walking back, getting in their cars and driving off. And our proposal is not only will we put the fence down there 3/4 of the way down the alley, but we will also put blocks in our parking lot to keep traffic from coming through there except during normal business hours. Now, the north end of the alley will still be open right now, so all the utility companies will be able to get through there. The main sewer line runs through that alley. We could never build over that alley without a lot of changes and moving that anyway, and that's not what we're looking to do, is to build over that alley. It's just to shut down the drug traffic, a lot of it coming. Also knowing there's a possibility of the splash pad park coming one day to Boy Scout Park, which is 2 blocks down the street. We are trying our best to try to clean up that community, that particular area of our community as a church, because that's our job as a church as well. And I am definitely speaking for closing this alley, sir. Thank you for your
very
time.
much for your input. Anyone else to make any public comments in this matter? Okay, if not, then I will close our public hearing. Any discussion by the commission? No discussion, and the chair will entertain a motion in this matter. Have a motion by Vice Mayor Herod.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hall. Would you read the title, please, ma'am?
This is an ordinance closing part of the public alleyway located in Block 7, Oak Park Addition, and providing for severability.
Okay, let's vote. Motion carries. Okay. Item number 9, consideration of a resolution in support of tax credits for CSY Investors LLC for rehabilitation of the Ashford Place Apartments. A staff report in this matter, sir? Or do you have anything to do with different what we saw in our packet? Okay. We have someone here who'd like to give us a report on that. Explain.
Good evening. My name is Pete Marone. I'm with CSY Investors.
Talk right into that microphone, Pete, and sign that, please.
Sign. Sorry, Pete Marone. I'm with CSY Investors. We are in the process of purchasing this property out of bankruptcy. We are also in the process of submitting an application to Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency to approve financing to significantly rehab and improve the complex from its current state. As I'm sure you're aware, part of that application process requires that we obtain a resolution of support from the city. Our proposal is to improve it inside and out. I think in its current state, it's a bit deferred. As I said, it's in bankruptcy. I don't think they're putting much money towards it. We'd like to turn that around, make it a nice complex again. So I would ask that you approve our resolution and allow us to move forward.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
I think you're, and maybe if I read this correctly, you're talking about they're like sort of two-story apartments?
Two-story apartments,
Now, is the
3105.
brick unit south of there yours? Is
No,
that
they're
part
not.
of this deal?
No, they're not.
That's kind of a stalemate there. That's been stagnant for a long time. So
Yeah, I
that's
don't
nothing
know-
to do with you on
No,
this.
sir.
on
I don't know
this.
the status of that.
Okay.
Yeah, the white fence
Okay.
is the property.
Yeah. These are already low-income apartments, right?
That's correct.
And so
Yes.
it's just a continuation.
That's correct.
What's the occupancy out there about? Do you know?
They're at about 95,
So-
96%.
so
So
it's
it's
pretty
maintaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely think there's a need for it in the
Yeah.
community.
Absolutely.
We want to make it nicer.
Yeah.
Be good neighbors. I know that there's some development going on in the area.
So will this resolution be tied to your company, or if for whatever reason the deal doesn't go through, will whoever else ever picks it up will have to get a similar resolution?
They would need to come before you. This resolution would be tied to our application that we would submit to
I think
OFA.
he uses this resolution for an application to get his funding and credit.
That's correct.
Right.
When would the rehabilitation start?
We are purchasing the property on the 23rd of this month, pending a bankruptcy court's
Yeah,
approval. It'll take about 4 months at a minimum to
So-
get through that financing process.
Probably in 2014, though, it looks like.
Yeah, late 2014.
Early 2015.
It's a real estate transaction. Delays could push us to first quarter 2015.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, if not, Chair will entertain a motion in this matter.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Stevens. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second? By Commissioner Agee. Let's vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 10, consideration of a resolution to surplus a vehicle to recycle.
Recycle.
Chair will entertain a motion in this matter. I don't know if we need a report. I read the deal.
Not good
It's a
for
pretty
anything
old
else.
car. It's not good for anything.
I'll move.
Huh? We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Hall. Let's vote.
You moved too quick on that one.
Means we read the agenda pretty good. Item number 11 is a discussion, consideration, and possible action on a proposal for a charter amendment requiring a vote of the people to approve detachment of territory under specific circumstances. I guess I need a motion made by Commissioner Hall, seconded by Vice Mayor Hare, to direct staff to forward preparation of a ballot language on a proposal for a charter amendment requiring a vote of the people to approve detachment of a territory under specific circumstances.
Now I'd like to modify my previous motion from the last meeting, if I may.
Okay.
I want to modify it to take that into two motions. The first motion would be to proceed with the city charter amendment resolution on the ballot at the next available election, and the wording as follows. Whenever the commission determines that the territory should be detached from the city limits, it shall submit the question to the voters no later than the next available municipal election if the territory, number one, is zoned higher than agriculture, or number two, has infrastructure including, without limitation, utility services and roads constructed by the city and in place for less than 25 years, or number three, has infrastructure that produces revenue pledged to payment of indebtedness, or number four, there are more than 5 occupied residents on the tract, or number 5, there's at least one retail business on the tract. And of course, there would be some necessary verbiage that goes on every ballot that would be put with that as well.
Good.
I second the motion.
We have a second. I have a motion.
Well, I'd like to have some
Okay,
discussion.
we will, just a second. We've got an amended motion, and we have a second. Okay, now it's time for discussion. Okay.
Okay. My concern is that a change of this magnitude could have some unintended consequences for the city.
and also for those residents who reside in the area to be detached. What we're saying, I understand, is that if the City Commission makes the decision to de-annex some property, that this, under specific circumstances, that this would automatically go to a vote of the public, regardless of whether anyone contested the Commission's decision. That would complicate the issue. This would go before the next election, which would cost several $1,000s. If it was the next general election, it could be up to 2 years waiting period until the next general election. And again, it would still cost several $1,000s. And if no one contested that, then it would be all for naught. Plus, I think the people in the territory to be detached are the ones who are going to be impacted the most by this. And I think they should be the ones to make the decision whether to petition for an election. One of the things that we've done in the past that I think might be a consideration in the future too is when we have a referendum or something on besides an election of candidates, there is an attempt to try to educate the public on what that issue is about. And in the past, we have spent, as a city, thousands of taxpayers' dollars trying to educate the public on those issues. And even then, you'll have a lot of people that will show up at the polls who aren't prepared to answer that particular question, who are just going to X the box. I think that could be dangerous. I think it could have unintended consequences for the city and for the people who live in the territory that's being affected. The city attorney has presented us, I think, with some alternatives that we should take a look at and consider that aren't quite as drastic as what is on the table right now. And I think that we should probably discuss some of those alternatives before we decide.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Agee on this. As a commissioner that's getting ready to go off here, I think it's important that we not make these kind of decisions. And I like Commissioner-elect Shaw's suggestion that the commission create a committee to fully discuss and develop the language, the parameters, if in fact that is what the new commission wants, that's getting ready to come into session very quick, in the very, next few months. I think this is a bit premature. I hate to see us act rashly. I think some of this has developed as a result of the negotiations with the CPN concerning water, concerning the sales tax. And I hate to see us act so drastically when, in the almost 8 years that I've sat on the commission, we've worked really hard to think regionally. We've worked really hard to try to include the county within our decision making, the communities around us, and I hate to see this commission start alienating our partners within the region. This concerns me, and I hate to see us act rashly. And I would like to ask my fellow commissioners to, let's not go forward at this point. Let's let the new commission come on board, create a committee if that's what you want to do. But let's develop this further. Let's have some public hearings. Let's talk about it. The ramifications of something like this are huge. And I hate to see mistakes made that are going to impact not only tribes, but neighborhoods, various property owners, and the citizens of Shawnee as a whole. Because you may just do something that you're not going to like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. So let's not act rashly. I'm not saying that you can't go forward. Don't do anything stupid. Let's develop it further. Let's talk about it further. Let's bring the players in and have the communications. Not because our most recent election became very heated and very pointed. Let's just be cautious.
Okay. We have comments. We do have a motion and a second on the table. So anybody else have any comments? If not, then I do have to call for a vote.
Yeah, I want to say a couple of things first, Wes. And I respect Commissioner Agee's and Commissioner Snyder's, Stevens' opinion. I understand what you're saying. A couple of things. The first, in the history of Shawnee, there's never been a case, a de-annexation case that would meet these conditions, right? So this is a once every 50 years thing. And I cannot imagine not giving our citizens the opportunity to vote on something that's this important and just leaving it to 4 individuals. You leave it to 4 individuals, those individuals can be influenced for a lot of reasons, right? And so something that has this much impact on my grandchildren's grandchildren needs to be voted on by all the citizens, and then we'll live by it. If all of the citizens say, yeah, let's de-annex a big tract of land, let's de-annex the mall, whatever, then we'll live with it. But let the citizens vote on it. Don't leave it up to 4 individuals. 4 individuals. I think that there's lots of cities, as I understand, already has this in place. This is not unique, to Shawnee. Something of this magnitude requires a lot of citizen input. What better way to get that input than to actually have an election and have them go to the polls and cast their ballot, right? I've had several people. Matter of fact, I don't believe there's been a single person told me that they're not for this. I have had many people tell me that this is a good thing for the city of Shawnee.
Well, we have a motion on the table and a second. We need to vote. Vote stand, vote counts. Motion carries.
I have a second motion. Motion is to proceed with the city charter amendment resolution on the ballot for the next available election, wording as follows. When land within existing city limits is detached, whether by vote of the people or by city ordinance, the city is entitled to reimbursement for public improvements that have been made to the land being detached. The value of reimbursement to the city shall be no less than, number 1, the actual cost of the applicable public improvements, or number 2, the remaining sum total of revenues from the applicable infrastructure that are pledged to payment of debt, whichever is greater. All that's saying is that if the land is detached for any reason and we spent money on infrastructure, or that infrastructure is going to pay off a bond, part of the revenue stream from that infrastructure, we're entitled to reimbursement for it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hall, and we have a second by Vice Mayor Harry. Any discussion in this matter? There not being any further discussion, we will vote then. Motion carries. Item number 12, consider approval of a disability retirement for Carla Clemens from the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund. The chair will entertain a motion in this matter.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
So moved by Commissioner Stevens. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Hall. Let's vote.
Hang on.
Hang on.
Give me a minute.
Motion carries. Item number 13, consider approval of acquiring a permanent easement for public highway at Independence and Kickapoo for parcel 11 and temporary easement on parcel 11.2 and 11.3 as necessary for the Kickapoo Street widening project. Do we have a staff report in this matter?
I'll make it. There was, after we got into the project, discovered there was a title issue. There had been a tax sale that maybe wasn't properly done, so forth and so on. So we went back and acquired, to get it clean, acquired the interest of Mr. Hudson, who had a claim on the property. And this really is not acquiring, it's an acceptance of this negotiated easement.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Stevens. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. Let's vote. I can't see. It's not showing me.
Oh, it carried.
It motion carried,
Yeah,
okay.
so I got rid of it.
I can see it.
Oh, I can see, there it is, there it is, okay. Okay, number 14 is consider bids on a rehab concrete streets project, various locations, 1314. We need to have a report.
Okay, this item was our rebid of our annual maintenance contract for a rehab concrete streets project, and it's a maintenance contract where we remove and replace broken concrete panels at various locations throughout the city. The first bid opened was from MTZ Construction, Inc. in the amount of $505,500. Second bid was from C3 Construction from Ada, Oklahoma. Their bid was $508,316.61. And the third bid received was from S&J Construction Specialists, LLC from Sapulpa, Oklahoma in the amount of $466,725. And we'd ask that this item be deferred until we review the bid tabs and come back at the next commission meeting with the recommendation. And I just wanted to point out to you, by you allowing us to rebid this project, last time we opened bids, we had one bid, and it was at $568,000. So we potentially have saved. No.
You're going in the right direction.
So we've saved potentially a lot of money by rebidding.
Great. Chair, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Harrod to defer this. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry, who made the
Second
motion?
by Mr. Harrod.
Okay, sorry.
And a second by Commissioner Stevens. Okay. You can vote. Motion carries. Any new business, Mr.
No new
City
business.
Manager? Item number 16 is,
We actually just took it easy on you guys. Thank you.
consider an executive session to discuss potential claims, litigation, or other options regarding case number CV 2014-6, Pottawatomie County, City of Shawnee versus International Union of Police Associations, Local Number 3, and John Arnett is authorized by 250S. Chair, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Hall. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. Let's vote. Motion carries. Item number 17 is consider an executive session to discuss evaluations of the city manager and city attorney pursuant to 205 OS, discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of any individual, salaried public officer, or employer. Chair will entertain a motion in this time. Have a motion by Vice Mayor Harrod.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hall. Let's vote. Motion carries. At this time, I guess we will go into our executive session. In the city manager. go after this and you can visit afterwards, okay? First of all, before I do this, thank each and every one of you commissioners for your efforts in being here. And thanks to the city staff that is still here. I do appreciate it very much. We've come out, announced that we are returning from executive session. They tell me to announce that and that no action was taken. Ask for a motion. On item number 18 was consider matters discussed in reference to the City of Shawnee versus the International Union of Police Associations. We took no action. I'll entertain a motion. With no action. Anybody want to make a motion?
Nope.
No motion. Okay. I'll move to item number 19. Consider matter discussed in executive session regarding discussion of the evaluation of the city manager and city attorney. No action was taken. I'll ask for a motion. Okay, being no motions, those two items. The last item on here is adjournment. We are adjourned.
Giving them notice of 30 days.